It's Friday evening, somewhere in suburban America. The year is 1995. You're standing in the new releases section of Blockbuster, fluorescent lights humming overhead, the smell of carpet and that particular plastic scent of VHS cases filling the air. The walls are lined floor to ceiling with thousands of movies, their colorful spines creating a mosaic of entertainment possibilities. You've got $20 in your wallet and the whole weekend ahead of you. The latest action movie you wanted is already gone, of course, but that's part of the game. You browse the comedy section, then drift toward horror, reading the backs of boxes, studying the freeze-frame screenshots that promise thrills and laughs and adventure. Behind the counter, a teenager with a name tag is rewinding return tapes on a wall of mechanical rewinders that sound like a factory. The line is 6 people deep, everyone's carrying their selections, some clutching their movies protectively, like they might change their minds. A family argues quietly about whether the kids are old enough for a PG-13. Someone asks the clerk if they have any more copies of that new Tom Cruise movie. The answer is always the same. Check back tomorrow. This is what Friday night looked like for millions of Americans for almost 30 years. A pilgrimage to the video store, a ritual of browsing and choosing and compromising, a shared cultural experience that happened in strip malls and shopping centers across the country. It was how you discovered movies, how you planned your weekend, how you stumbled onto something you never would have found otherwise. At its peak, in 2004, Blockbuster alone had more than 9,000 stores worldwide and employed over 84,000 people. But Blockbuster wasn't alone. Every town had video stores. Mom-and-pop operations with handwritten rental cards and late fee policies taped to the counter. Regional chains that specialized in foreign films or cult classics. Hollywood Video, Movie Gallery, Family Video. They were everywhere, as common as gas stations, as essential as grocery stores. The video rental store was born from a simple technological reality. VHS tapes were expensive. In the early 1980s, a new movie on VHS could cost $60 to $100. That was more than most people were willing to spend on a single film, especially since you'd probably only watch it once, but renting it for $3, that made sense. The first video rental store opened in Los Angeles in 1977, but the concept really took off in the early 1980s, as VCR ownership exploded. Suddenly every strip mall had at least one video store, and many had several. The business model was elegant. Buy movies wholesale for $20 to $40, rent them for $3 to $5, and turn a profit after just a few rentals. Popular movies would pay for themselves within weeks. What made the video store special wasn't just the economics, it was the experience. Walking into a video store was like entering a physical catalog of every movie ever made. The walls told you what was popular, what was new, what was worth your time. The staff picked favorites and stuck handwritten recommendation cards on the shelves. If you like this, try this. It was curation before we had a word for it. The layout of every video store followed the same logic. New releases dominated the front, multiple copies of the latest hits arranged spine out on the walls. Action and comedy got prime real estate. Horror had its own corner, usually near the back where kids couldn't stumble onto it accidentally. Foreign films and documentaries were tucked away in a section that only certain customers ever explored, and in the very back, behind a beaded curtain or saloon doors, was the adults-only section that everyone pretended not to notice. The ritual was always the same. You'd browse, usually for much longer than necessary. You'd pick up movies, read the synopsis on the back, check the rating, maybe recognize an actor from something else. You'd carry 3 or 4 potential choices while you kept looking, gradually narrowing down your options based on mood, budget, and what your family or friends might actually watch. Then came the negotiation. If you were with other people, everyone had opinions. Action or comedy. Something recent or a classic. The kids wanted cartoons, but the adults wanted something more sophisticated. Compromise was an art form. You'd settle on one movie everyone could tolerate, and maybe a backup in case the first choice was terrible. The late fee was video store mythology. Return your movies late and pay the price, sometimes more than the original rental cost. It was a source of constant frustration and occasional genuine hardship. People drove across town at 11 p.m. to avoid a late fee. They argued with clerks about timestamps and grace periods. They calculated whether it was cheaper to pay the late fee or buy the movie outright. But the late fee also enforced the social contract. Movies had to be shared. Your weekend viewing had a deadline. Friday and Saturday nights were when video stores came alive. Families would make it an event, piling into the minivan to cruise the aisles together. Couples would spend 30 minutes debating the merits of romantic comedy versus thriller. Groups of teenagers would descend on the horror section like film critics, arguing about which slasher sequel was worth their time. But video stores weren't just about new releases, they were archives. That weird movie you half remembered from cable TV. The video store probably had it. Foreign films that would never play at your local theater. The video store was your only option. Independent movies, documentaries, cult classics from the 1970s, it was all there. Organized by genre, waiting to be discovered. The people who worked at video stores became cultural gatekeepers. They knew what was good, what was popular, what was worth avoiding. They could recommend something based on your rental history. You liked that cop movie last week. Try this one. It was personalized in a way that no algorithm has ever quite matched. Then Netflix arrived in 1997. Not streaming Netflix, that wouldn't come for another decade. This was DVD by mail Netflix, a service that seemed almost quaint in its simplicity. You made a list of movies you wanted to see. They mailed them to you. You mailed them back. No due dates, no late fees, no driving to the store, only to find out they didn't have what you wanted. At first it seemed like a niche service for movie obsessives, who wanted to wait 3 days for a movie to arrive in the mail when you could drive 5 minutes to Blockbuster. But Netflix had advantages that became more apparent over time. Their selection was massive. They had everything, including hard-to-find titles and foreign films that most video stores couldn't afford to stock. And the price was right, unlimited rentals for a monthly fee that was less than what most families spent renting movies on weekends. The DVD format helped Netflix in ways that VHS never could have. DVDs were smaller, lighter, and cheaper to ship. They didn't degrade with use the way tapes did, and they offered something VHS couldn't: perfect digital quality every time. Blockbuster fought back, launching their own mail service in 2004. But they were fighting a war on two fronts. Netflix was growing rapidly, and a new technology was emerging that would make the entire concept of physical media obsolete: broadband internet. In 2007, Netflix launched their streaming service. Suddenly, you didn't need to wait for movies in the mail. You didn't need to drive anywhere. You didn't need to own or rent physical media at all. You could watch thousands of movies instantly, on demand, for the same monthly price you were already paying. The collapse happened faster than anyone predicted. Blockbuster, which had been profitable for decades, filed for bankruptcy in 2010. Hollywood Video closed in 2010. Movie Gallery followed in 2010. Independent stores that had survived the chain expansion of the 1990s couldn't survive the digital revolution of the 2000s. By 2013, there were fewer than 500 Blockbuster stores left, down from a peak of over 9,000. The last corporate-owned Blockbuster closed in 2014. Today there's exactly one Blockbuster store still operating, in Bend, Oregon, kept alive as much by nostalgia and tourism as by actual video rentals. What died with the video store wasn't just a business model, it was an entire way of discovering and consuming entertainment. The video store was a physical space where movies existed as objects, where browsing was tactile and social, where serendipity happened because you were wandering through aisles looking for something, anything, that might be worth your Friday night. Netflix and streaming services gave us convenience, selection, and instant gratification, but they also gave us algorithm-driven recommendations, endless scrolling, and the paradox of choice. When you have access to thousands of movies at any moment, choosing becomes harder, not easier. The limitations of the video store, the restricted selection, the time pressure, the physical effort required, actually made decisions easier. There was also something communal about the video store experience that has no streaming equivalent. You saw your neighbors there. You overheard conversations about movies. You got recommendations from strangers browsing the same section. The video store was a place where your entertainment choices were visible to others and influenced by others. It was social in a way that scrolling through Netflix on your couch can never be. The video store clerks, too, were part of the experience. They were movie enthusiasts, often film students or aspiring filmmakers themselves, who could engage in real conversations about what you should watch. They knew what was worth your time and what wasn't. They could guide you towards something you might never have considered. That kind of human curation is rare now, replaced by algorithms that know what you've watched but not necessarily what you might enjoy. The physical act of holding a VHS box or DVD case was part of the ritual. You'd flip it over to read the plot summary, scan the cast list, study the screenshots. The box art was often better than the movie itself, designed to grab your attention from across the store. B-movies with terrible plots would have amazing covers featuring explosions and attractive actors who appeared for maybe 30 seconds in the actual film. It was marketing at its most brazen, but it worked. There was also the unspoken etiquette of video store browsing. You didn't hover too close to other customers. You didn't grab something out of someone else's hands. If you were debating between two movies and someone else wanted one of them, you made a decision quickly. The popular new releases created their own social dynamics, a quiet competition for the last copy of whatever everyone wanted to see. If you remember the specific geography of your local video store, where the comedy section was, which corner housed the horror movies, how the new releases were arranged, you remember something that shaped American culture for a generation. You remember Friday nights that required planning, weekends that had structure, and the simple pleasure of finding exactly the right movie for exactly the right moment. The video store is gone, but the need it served remains. We still want to be surprised. We still want to discover something new. We still want our entertainment choices to matter. Streaming services have tried to replicate the video store experience with algorithms and recommendations, but they can't recreate the physical serendipity of wandering through aisles, the social pressure of making a choice and living with it, or the simple ritual of leaving your house to find something worth watching. Where was your video store? Do you remember what section you always went to first? What was the last movie you rented there? Those details matter because they represent a moment in time when choosing what to watch was itself part of the entertainment, when discovery required effort, and when Friday night began with a trip to a place that no longer exists.